Michael Myers is fucking terrifying. Michael was never meant to be a horror movie villain in the traditional sense. He doesn't talk, he doesn't explain himself, and the film doesn't ask you to understand him. Instead, he's framed as a presence, something that exists in the background of ordinary life, standing at the end of the street, in doorways, just out of focus. The less he moves, the more unsettling he becomes, because your brain fills in the gaps for him. You know, the amount of times I've spoken to people about their favorite horror films or the ones that scared them the most when they were a kid, and they say Halloween because it could actually happen in real life. You know, somebody could actually escape from a mental asylum and just start butchering people. And the one thing that makes Michael Myers so terrifying is how patient he is. He doesn't rush, he doesn't chase you in the dramatic ways. He watches Laurie from a distance, like he's already decided how it's going to end. The camera mirrors this long shots, wide framing, complete silence, and that creates a constant low level dread that never really switches off. A lot of slashers that came after Halloween misunderstood this. They were constantly trying to go one bigger, one better, and it doesn't really have the same effect. But Michael Myers was never scary because he was overly violent. He was scary because he felt inevitable. There's not really a great deal of blood in that original Halloween. The thing that's scary about Michael Myers, he feels like this inevitable force that can just pop up out of nowhere when you're babysitting, when you're walking down the street, when you're home alone. He isn't a villain you understand. He's the shape that exists at the edge of the frame, reminding you that danger doesn't always announce itself. And there's something timeless about that kind of fear. Whether you watched Halloween in the 80s, the 90s, or the 2000s, that fear is absolutely transferable decade to decade. I watch the Halloween films every year, and they're genuinely some of my favorites because that sense of fear that they create, especially the original. And don't get me wrong, I love gore, there's a place for that in horror, but there's just something so special about being able to create that sense of dread without someone getting their throat cut every 2 minutes. And that is why Michael Myers still works, especially in that original film. And yeah, maybe all of your films since then haven't followed that same blueprint, but I think as we become more desensitized to seeing people get their head cut off and all this kind of over the top horror, the scarier Michael Myers becomes because he's not that, generally speaking, in the original films. And that's why Michael Myers still works today, because he's almost everything that modern horror isn't, but yet he's stood the test of time because of that original fear he created. All right, thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed it, please remember to hit subscribe, hit me up on Instagram and all the socials, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.